issues related to such language use. And this is the clip that I'm sure a lot of you have watched on the YouTube, right? So did you hear the English with what kind of accent? From where? Singapore. And luckily we have a Singaporean students here, right? So you want to tell us something about your language? Where's Newton Circus? Anyway, that's like a food court?
Yeah, it's like a Newton Hawker Center. It's like a food court that sells cheaper.
So definitely it's not a high-end restaurant, right? So a lot of us infer from the conversation. Okay, so they're trying to make it funny, but when I was told about this YouTube, I think about the kind of accent that people will speak English in Singapore, and not just in Singapore. So definitely we have an issue of accent here. And in linguistics, an accent is a manner of pronunciation particular to a particular individual, a particular place, or a particular nation. And it is differ in quality of voice, pronunciation of vowels and consonant, stress and prosody. Okay, so you have heard the Singaporean English just now in the YouTube clip. And mainly the intonation is funny. But the funny thing is not about the syntax or the grammar. The funny thing is about the quality of the vowel or the quality of the consonant, and also some stress pattern. And prosody refers to something very close to what we'll be talking about, intonation. So grammar, semantics, vocabulary, and other language characteristics often vary concurrently with accent, but the word accent actually only referring to the pronunciation, the phonetic or the phonological part. And often an accent is a subset of a dialect. In this case, of course, we do not call it a dialect because this is English spoken in Singapore. It's not, within the nation where English is a common or official language. So an accent may identify the locality in which its speaker reside, a geographical or regional accent, in this case Singapore, the socio-economic status of its speaker, their ethnicity, their caste, social class, their first language, and so on. So you might have guessed in the clips yet to come, what kind of accent do I think I would pick up? English spoken with what? What other countries might speak English with accent? And they speak English very well.
British.
Okay, any other guess? India. Okay, that's right. I'm going to show you clips from India, clips from Great Britain as well. Okay, so in Great Britain it will be considered a dialect because it's in the same country, but in other countries it's not an accent. So this has to do with we learn English as a first language or as a second language, or maybe not as a second language, as a foreign language. I don't know the case in Singapore. Do you learn English as a second language or you learn English as a foreign language? First language. Oh, first language. Okay. In Taiwan, do you think people learn English as definitely not the first language, right? So is it a second language or a foreign language? Foreign language. What's the difference? A second language is something that you would use on an everyday basis. A foreign language is a language probably you only learn it in class or learn it in a specific occasion, in some specific occasion, but you don't talk to your friends in English outside the classroom, unless you don't have any other common language. Then you would choose English. So English in Taiwan is definitely not an L2, not a second language, it's a foreign language. So currently there are approximately 75 territories where English spoken either as a first language or as an unofficial and institutionalized second language in fields such as government, law, and education. In one of the places where I have lived for a long time, which is Puerto Rico, I think a lot of people want to make English the second language, but I don't think they have been very successful. For example, in the Supreme Court, the language is English, but in the local court, the language is Spanish. Okay, so depending on which court you go to, then you will be using different languages. And commonly, everyday people use Spanish to talk to each other. But people with higher economic status usually are bilingual, so they will be able to speak two languages. So language sometimes play a very tricky part. It is difficult to establish the total number of Englishes. Look at the word es. I put a plural marker here, in the world, as new varieties of English are constantly being developed and discovered. So like the English that you have just heard in the video clip, it's one kind of English. So if you have many kinds of this kind of Englishes, then we now develop something new. You can put a plural marker of the word English. So now we have a case of word Englishes. Okay, this is something like in a situation when you use English as an international or as an intranational language. So what is word Englishes? Word Englishes refer to the emergence of localized or indigenized varieties of English, especially varieties developed in nations colonized by Great Britain or influenced by the United States. Okay, and this is a term that was developed by a few linguists. But before we go into that, this kind of varieties of English used in diverse social linguistic contexts globally, okay, all over the world, and how social linguistic histories, multicultural backgrounds, and context of function influence the use of colonial English. So different kind of situation, different kind of national history, different kind of social linguistic situation is going to influence the kind of Englishes that you're going to hear or use in that place. So this issue of word Englishes was first raised in 1978, some 30 years ago, right? Okay, it's not that different varieties of English did not exist before 1978, but in 1978 people began to realize that this is an important issue because of what? Can you guess the reason? Why? Starting in 1978, Englishes has become an important issue that has raised or has caught the attention of many linguists and many social linguists, or even people who are in education. What is that? Why is that? How many of you were born before 1978? No, right? No. How many of you grow up getting used to the idea of just hopping on an airplane and go to the place where you want to go to? Raise your hand. I'm sure all of you are, because you have at least traveled so far. I have never been out of my country before I was 20. It was such a treat by my parents if I were able to even take an airplane to Hualien, the eastern side of Taiwan. And I did not have the chance to do it until I was 16, and it was a big treat at that time. But now, if you are in Europe, you can just catch a very cheap airline going to a different countries using very little money, and you can have a vacation in another country in Europe or in anywhere else, right? So globalization was the key. Because you know, it's so easy to travel everywhere else in the world, they began to realize that they have to look at the issue. And this word Englishes was originally to examine concepts of regional Englishes globally. And they want to see what are the pragmatic factors they have to take into consideration in order to call it a variety of the word Englishes. Such pragmatic factors include appropriateness, comprehensibility, and interpretability. So whether the language you use is proper or whether the language you use can be understood by your listeners or by your audience. Even though the guy in the iPhone 4SG spoke with an accent, can you understand him? No?
It's hard.
Yeah, it was hard.
Marlene, it was hard to you?
Yeah.
Were you here, Gladys? Can you understand everything? Okay. How many of you found it as easy, quite easy to catch up? Why is that?
I used to live there.
Oh, you actually live there.
Singapore and Malaysia. So I
Oh,
used to live there.
okay. So these two are exceptional. Other than these two people, who else? So I must have been fooled. I thought I understood because there was Chinese subtitle underneath. Okay. So, okay. And International Committee of the Study of World Englishes, abbreviated as ICWE, was formed in 1988 at the TESOL conference in Honolulu, Hawaii. Okay. So after 10 years, the official committee was set up. In fact, I went to Hawaii in 1980, and one of my very close friends who came from Singapore also studied in Hawaii. She was the first one who talked to me about world Englishes because she was a good friend of Professor Kachu. That's one of the people who set up the committee. I didn't know anything about that, but so it was something completely new to me. But now my friend is back to Singapore teaching in National Singapore University, and she was one of the original founder of this committee. Okay. So after we have heard that iPhone 4SG, let's watch another movie clip. I'm Not Stupid. How many of you have watched this film? Okay, quite a few. If you have, please bear with us. I'm not going to play the whole movie. So I'm just going to take out excerpts from the movie. This movie, Chinese title is called 小孩不笨. Okay, it's a Singaporean comedy film about the life, struggle, and adventures of 3 primary 6 pupils who are placed in the academically inferior EM3 stream. Its satirical criticism of Singaporean education system and social attitudes in Singapore sparked public discussion and parliamentary debates that led to reform in the education system. Okay, so you can see the influence or the impact of a movie. And in fact, it was quite popular in Taiwan when it was first released. Can I have either James or Gladys tell us about EM3?
I never went to school there.
Okay, so Gladys, you will be our representative.
The class in primary school, they have this system where when you are primary 4, you'll be streaming to either EM1, EM2, or EM3. So the best students, they will go EM1 and they have to take additional subjects like higher mother tongue, like higher Chinese. Most of the students goes to EM2, which is the normal stream, and for EM3, it's for students who are a bit slower in their studies. So EM3, their syllabus will be different, and you will study like less things.
Hear that? Stream from elementary school. You'll be streamed into 3 groups, depending on your intellectual or your academic performance. Does it sound familiar? How about in Taiwan? Did we have that?
No.
No? You sure?
I think in public school, there are no this classification.
There's no such publication. How about in grade 7, grade 8?
So, because I watched the drama once, like there was like an F class and like an A class.
Yeah.
At least in my school, there,
Oh, you're lucky. What school did you attend?
just an ordinary public school.
Okay. Not in grade school. I don't think we did that in grade school, but in junior high school, 7th grade or 8th grade. No?
No.
Have you ever heard about this term? Okay, 放牛班. Chester, you look alarmed. You never heard of that?
No, I did.
You did, right? Okay. So because up until now, the compulsory education in Taiwan is for 9 years. So after 9 years, after you finish the 9th grade, you have to take an entrance examination in order to get into a good high school. So in grade school, they don't push you so hard. But in junior high school, they would have to do something to make sure you get into a good high school. So then they will stream people into at least 2 extremes. One is like EM1. And this 放牛班 is like EM3. In this, if you are put into this kind of classes, they don't give you a lot of homework, they don't ask a lot of you, and they don't even assign the so-called best teachers to these classes. When my daughter was in the 7th grade, the teachers, I think who was an excellent teacher, but she called me, she would term herself, okay, 牵牛花, okay? 牵 is to bring, 牛 is cow, right? Similar. Flower, because she's a girl, right? So she said she's going to teach these people in the 放牛班. So she's a person who is going to, actually this is the name of a flower. So you can see the kind of situation that was like what, 10 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago. My daughter is now 25. Okay, 10 years ago, right? It's not legal, but they do it all the time. They stream it the first day you went into junior high school. Yeah, it's not legal. Officially, it's not allowed. Okay. Okay, Chester is trying to correct me, but... So that's why I say, he's lucky.
I think maybe in private school, they have this system.
No, my daughter attended public school. It was done a lot in public school 10 years ago, yes. Officially not allowed, but that's the thing. I guess the link is in okay. So we have a scene from that 小孩不笨. That was the first movie that came out. It was such a hit. So they started to do the second part. And even in the 1 minute, 1.5 minute strip that you have just watched, the mother and the children, they all spoke English only, right? There was only English. Did they switch to another language? No. All English, right? But you just heard the same kind of accent that we have talked about before. So in 2006, I think they have put out the sequel to I'm Not Stupid, called I'm Not Stupid 2. It's a satirical comedy, again, like I'm Not Stupid. I'm Not Stupid 2 portrays the life, which is a totally different kind of storyline, but the same actors and actresses that you have seen, most of them are the same one from I'm Not Stupid. So they try to portray the life, struggles, and adventures of 3 Singaporean youths. Now they are 15-year-old, and this 15-year-old Tom has a 8-year-old brother, and their 15-year-old friend, who have a strained relationship with their parents. The film explored the issue of poor parent-child communication. Okay, so this is a little bit shift away from the education, but they are talking about another issue, the issue of education. So now let's try to watch this again. Okay, so we have seen the sequel to I'm Not Stupid. And this time, the language used for communication is mainly Mandarin, right? Mainly Mandarin. In this movie strip, we have a lot of issues that you might want to think about. You can think about how to communicate properly. What is communication? You can think about education. You can think about language policy on language being used in the country. So in what follows, I'm going to concentrate on the language policy issue. But in the movie, you must have remembered the scene when the mother was talking about a lot of words, but the children were not listening. In Chinese, we say something comes from your left ear and it goes out on your right ear. 左耳入右耳出. Do we have similar expression in other languages? Yeah? Dorothy, what's that?
Well, it's like the same like you said. Like it just goes in through one ear, not the other.
Okay, but you don't say left and right. Okay, just say one, the other. Okay. Any other languages? Similar. Okay, so it's quite universal. So now let's talk a little bit about the language policy issue. So language policy is usually designed by a nation to favor or discourage the use of a particular language or set of languages. In Singapore, in particular, at one point it was English, right? But then when the President Lee came along, he started to promote Mandarin. And what is the status of Mandarin now in Singapore? Second language. Okay, and the third language? You don't. The Tamil and other languages. You have 4 languages, right?
Oh yeah, I mean like in school for students, you have to learn compulsory first language and second language. So it's English and other.
Okay, so English is the first language and Mandarin is the second language.
Second language depends on what ethnicity you are. So if you are Indian, so it will be
Tamil.
Malay, it will be Malay.
So you have a choice of your second language, right?
Yeah, but I think most people just follow like their ethnicity.
Most people would choose just Mandarin as a second language, right?
Yeah, unless they are Indians or English.
Right. Okay. So that's about language policy. So language policy is what a government does to officially, through legislation, court decision, or to determine how languages are used, cultivate language skills needed to meet national priorities, or to establish the right of individuals or groups to use and maintain languages. Historically, they are often used to promote one official language at the expense of others. This has been seen in many countries. In order to promote one official language, then you have to sacrifice the other languages, as the case you have seen in Mandarin Chinese and also Taiwanese Southern Min in Taiwan in the earlier part of from the 50s to the 70s or to the 80s. Now designed to promote and to protect regional and ethnic language whose viability is threatened. So you see, language policy changes because of the context. In nowadays, we no longer promote or protect an official language as such. Rather, we want to promote and protect the regional and ethnic language who is endangered or on the verge of being distinct. As in the case of Formosan, you are going to see right away, or even Hakka in Taiwan is the same situation. Okay, so let me just finish a little bit before I give you a break. So in this movie, you have seen Chinese is used not as a foreign language, but more as a second language. So I want to share with you some statistics about learning Chinese. In 2005, there is 117,660 non-native speakers took the Chinese proficiency test, an increase of 26.52 from 2004. That's a big increase. And from year 2000 to 2004, the number of students in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland taking advanced level exam in Chinese increased by 57%, which is, I believe that figure. I remember for the past few years when I went to Great Britain and I went through the custom, usually I would, when they have finished checking my papers, I say thank you, and it usually would be thrown back with 谢谢, by an English-speaking official. So I think this is true. And when I went to LSE, the London School of Economics, a lot of scholars there were able to speak Chinese, were able to communicate with us in Chinese, to even talk about academic issues. Yeah.
My cousin is 12 years old in England, and now they're starting to have mandatory 1 hour Chinese.
Yeah, I was told about that too. Last time when we were in a board meeting, one of the board members said that in England that they are doing that now. And they need a lot of teachers, Mandarin teachers, so they are trying to seek help worldwide. And so I think in this room most of you do speak Chinese very well. Okay, and the USC US-China Institute cited a report that 51,582 students were studying the language in US colleges and universities, while far behind the more than 800,000 students who study Spanish. The number is more than 3 times higher in 1986. So probably there are more students studying Spanish, but I think more and more students are taking Chinese courses or even taking AP in Chinese, right? How many of you are taking AP in Chinese or have already taken AP in Chinese?
AP is high school. I'm trying to think. I think in my state, I only know of one school that offered the AP exam for Chinese.
That was like 5 years ago? 2 or 3 years ago. I heard that some schools in Missouri they have also offered Chinese classes in high school, in every single high school. They try to do that. So an estimate 40 million people are now studying Chinese as a second language around the world. Okay, so this is as a second language, not as a foreign language. Even though I put foreign language here, I just want you to make a distinction between a foreign language and a second language. So this 40 million people, I'm talking about learning Chinese as a second language, not as a foreign language. If you add in the population who learn Chinese as a foreign language, I think the number would increase a lot more. Okay, so 2 more slides before we take a break. So in that I'm Not Stupid 2, you also hear a little bit of code switching, but when you come back after your break, you're going to hear more code switching taking place in the movie. Okay, so code switch, what is code switch? We would first watch the movie's clip before we talk about it. So take a break of come back at 10:40. In this second strip from I'm Not Stupid 2, please listen carefully to the code switching situation. The code switching takes place between the principal who speak English and Mandarin, and also the neighbors who speak Hokkien, that's Taiwanese Southern Min, similar to Taiwanese Southern Min, Mandarin and English. And they also talk about education system in Singapore. Okay, quite a movie, right? You have seen a lot of Chinese-style parents and how we value education in our system. But mainly, I want you to pay attention to the code switching that you have seen or you have heard in the movie. And it's a pity that not too many of you speak Taiwanese Southern Min, because if you understand, Taiwanese Southern Min is more vivid, a kind of language, okay? Just very vivid. So what is code switching? The code switching is the concurrent use of more than one language or language variety in a conversation in a manner consistent with the syntax and phonology of each variety. So where they switch or what they choose to switch, it's regulated by the grammar. Okay. In 1940s and 1950s, code switching was considered a kind of substandard language use. Again, I'm going to tell you the time has changed. The context is different. So now we have a different view about code switching. Since 1980, code switching is deemed as a kind of normal, natural product of bilingual and multilingual language use. So I'm sure if you observe, listen carefully to languages used on campus here or even in Taipei City, you're going to hear a lot of code switching, not just between Mandarin and Taiwanese Southern Min. Also, we use some English vocabulary items all the times. And code mixing, sometimes people got mixed up with these two terms. Usually, code mixing can be a term used to mean the same thing as code switching, okay? Or sometimes it's a term denoting the formal linguistic properties of said language context phenomena, whereas code switching is only used to denote the actual spoken usage by people who are multilingual. So these two concepts, they could be different in a strict linguistic sense. What's the social motivation for the code switching? As you can see in a society like Singapore, code switching is so common because code switching sometimes index the social group membership in a bilingual or multilingual communities. Some social linguists describe the relationship between code switching behavior and class, ethnicity, and other social behavior. And conversational analyst Peter Auer suggests that code switching does not simply reflect social situation, but that it is a means to create social situation. So it's not only to index, but it could also be used to create a real social situation. I think this has happened in a lot of multilingual societies, even in Taiwan. Okay, and another related phenomenon is language change. Sometimes it's also referred to as language transfer or language replacement. The progressive progress whereby a speech community of a language shifts to speaking another language is called language shift. Language shift, we can use the data from language shift to measure the use of a given language in the lifetime of a person, or most often across generations within a linguistic community. This is a process whereby a community of speakers of one language become bilingual in another language, or generally shift to the second language. And if it's already shipped to the second language, we call it assimilation. Why is language shift so important? Because when a linguistic community ceases to use their original language, language death is said to occur. Okay, so that's why nowadays the government has a lot of policy to rescue the endangered languages, because we don't want to see language death, especially for some languages that carry with it a lot of historical heritage. Okay, so in the last movie strip of I'm Not Stupid 2, we saw a lot of issues on education. So in what follows, I'm going to share with you this movie. I'm sure a lot of you have watched it. So I probably won't play everything I have planned it here, called 3 Idiots. Is there anyone here who hasn't seen the movie? Oh, so many. So maybe I just play some strip from the movie. Mainly it's about 3 boys in India and what happened in the school. I think I just show you the movie. Let's begin. I think I'm going to. Okay, I'm just going to play the most excited part. Okay, I like this movie very much. In fact, I didn't have time to play everything I want to play, but I still want you to go home and try to see if you can go on YouTube. You know, it's divided into, I think, 18 subparts or something. But I think I want to share with you another scene from the movie, which is what I consider the best.
Can you understand what they're saying?
Can I understand what they're?
You can understand, because I think it's impossible without subtitles. To me, can you understand it?
Not the Indian part, but you know,
Yeah, the English
you have the
part,
English
like
part.
Indian, so I didn't really understand anything without the subtitles.
I would have to count on the subtitles as well, but on the YouTube, I think there's some English version of it. Let's see if you can understand the next strip I want to play from this movie. Okay, so the movie is entitled Three Idiots. Who are real idiots? It's for you to find out from watching the movie strips. I have already made all the links with the help of Chester on the PowerPoint. So you could go home and watch the parts that I skipped. But still, I think I'm going to use at least 20 more minutes to introduce another film that I think it would help me to tell you more about social linguistics and accent. Okay, so this was the last part, and which I skipped. Okay, so the last movie I want to play is called My Fair Lady, and I must have mentioned this once before. This was a play written by Bernard Shaw, who was the first one that was awarded with a Nobel Prize of Literature, and also was awarded with an Oscar. Got an Oscar award. And in this movie, he was a phonetician, someone who is good with languages. So he takes a bet with his friend that he wants to transform a dirty Cockney flower girl, a girl speaking English with a Cockney accent, Eliza Doolittle, into a lady and fool everyone into thinking she really is one too. So she does this by going through a lot of transformation, a lot of training. So I'll just play the part so that you can, I'll let you appreciate a little bit about the standard English and the Cockney accent. Okay, so did you recognize the actress? Who? Audrey Hepburn. And so the two men, one is the phonetician, the other one is his friend. So they bet he will be able to train this girl speaking with a Cockney accent to be able to speak the standard language. And it was not so easy. Even the plane in Spain. What? The rain in the plane. I got it. Okay. Mainly it's the difficulty with the A sound. And if you have heard Australian English, how do they pronounce today? To die. Yeah. So usually the vowel of A could not be pronounced correctly by a lot of speakers. So they succeeded in doing that. Okay, so what this girl was talking about was a dialect. And what is a dialect? A dialect is a variety of language that is characteristic of a particular group of the language speaker. And it applies most often to regional speech pattern, but a dialect may also be defined by other factors such as social class. A dialect is distinguished by its vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation, usually phonology, including prosody. Where a distinction can be made only in terms of pronunciation, the term accent is appropriate, but not dialect. So a lot of people call Taiwanese Southern Min as a dialect, which is not true, as I have told you, because if you are dialect of each other, then the mutual intelligibility should be maintained. But we know that Mandarin speaker would not be mutually intelligible. Mandarin would not be mutually intelligible to a Taiwanese Southern Min speaker. And the particular speech pattern used by an individual are called an idiolect. An idiolect is a special way that a person will speak which is different from dialect. So for example, we could speak English with accent, but I could speak Chinese with my own idiolect. That's my way of saying the language. Okay, and as I said, all this has to do with the globalization. And in fact, I have found something on globalization. I'll play it if we have time later. But let me go into this. So what we have seen so far in the few movies, we are talking about the descriptive study of the effects of any and all aspects of society, including cultural norms, expectations, and context, on the way language is used and the effects of language use on society. In linguistics, we call this social linguistics, and we would do it under social linguistics. Also studies how language variety differ between groups separated by certain social variables such as ethnicity, religion, status, gender, level of education, age, etc., and how creation and adherence to these rules is used to categorize individuals in social and socio-economic classes. In the movie My Fair Lady, they try to classify or downgrade the person because of her accent, and she was a flower girl, so she tried to, Dr. Higgins tried to train her into speaking the so-called proper English, and so that she could fool other people as a real duchess or something like that. And the playwright, as I said, is George Bernard Shaw. He was the first Irish who, I think the first Irish, or the first one who received Oscar award, also Nobel Prize winner in literature. For something that you might not know, he is also the co-founder of what we know today as the LSE, London School of Economics. He was one of the co-founder. Okay, so this is a very talented man who has a specialization in economics as well as in writing, and he's using his writing as a way to call for social justice. Okay, so basically, social linguistics in the West first appeared in the 1960s and was pioneered by linguists such as William Labov in the US and Basil Bernstein in the UK. I can tell you a little bit about Labov's research in the 1960s. He was made famous by his dissertation in 1973 because he wanted to study the different pronunciation of the final R in English, for, because in New York, for example, in Brooklyn, most of the people would drop the final R, right? Who is from New York? We have somebody from New York or from the East Coast. Okay, is that right?
Wait, drop the R.
Yeah, drop the R.
For.
How would you say for?
For.
For. So you are not that typical. Okay.
Oh yeah, for.
For. Okay.
Yeah.
So what he did was he went to the department store called Macy, right? And in Macy, I think the children's wear or ladies' wear is on the 4th floor. So he pretended that he was a customer or he was just anyone who wants to go shopping, but he didn't know where that department is. So he would say, "Where is the ladies' department?" And you're a person who knows about the department store, you will come up with on the 4th floor. So he just wanted to listen to the pronunciation of the final R. Okay, and this was in his 1973 study on social linguistics. So that also tells you if you want to observe something, either you don't let the person know that you are observing him or her, or if you want to do a questionnaire by asking questions, you should, make a little bit of detour so the people don't know what you really want. And by this way, he has very interesting data from his study. If you go home, you're going to see this also on your, we will post it on the Seiba. And I have found this particular video, only 2 minutes and 47 seconds, interesting, which I'm not going to play here because if I have time, I'm going to play something from the Globalization. Okay, and I want to play this cartoon. Okay, after this, we will dismiss the class. A lot of time when you are in, I know for sure in the United States, when you are called calling people, and the person who is answering the phone is not stationed in the United States, right? It's elsewhere. So this is one of the strips that I think that will clarify the situation after globalization. Also, I think it's interesting because they use numbers, and this is very common in everyday. You know, when you call, you probably have to leave a phone number. But as I told you, numbers are the last part, are the most difficult part to learn when you want to learn a second language, or a foreign language, because it's very hard to internalize the number system for some reason. Okay, so basically this is what I want to share with you, and I do want you to think about all the issues that have been raised. I think Trista probably remind you of the topics that we have gone through today, and you could have a free discussion in the next hour, and also think about maybe you want to include these topics or one of the topics as your assignment 3 or 4. Okay, these are the issues that you can talk about. Okay, the class is dismissed.